So this is your Unit 7 test correction video. So what you'll do is go through the video. You should have your test in front of you so that you know which questions that you missed. And you should also have a correction form in front of you. So on the correction form on the far left, you'll put the question number that you missed. And then in the next space, you just need to describe what it was that you didn't understand, or if it was a calculation error. Just kind of put what it was you think caused you to not know how to answer that question. And then in that next blank, that's where you'll show the work, the correct way to solve the problem. And in that last space is where you'll put the correct answer. And so you'll do that for just the questions that you missed. And then just turn in your test correction form with your name on it into your class periods turn-in drawer. Here we go. Number 1, a circular railroad crossing sign has a diameter of 30 inches. Which measurement is closest to the area of the sign in square inches? So we're being asked to find area. This is a circle. We're given the diameter. Remember that diameter is all the way across the circle. So what we know is all the way across the circle is 30 inches. And then if you look at your formula chart for the area of a circle, it says area equals pi times radius squared. And remember, in that formula, you have to do the radius squared part first, because in order of operations in PEMDAS, exponents comes before multiplying, and that squared, that's an exponent. So we have to square the radius first before we multiply by pi. So we'll use 3.14 for pi. And if the diameter is 30, radius means halfway across. So if the diameter is 30, then the radius would be 15, because half of 30 is 15. And that has to be squared. So we'll square 15, which means multiply it times itself. And that's 225. So then we have 3.14 times 225. And I'm just looking at my answer choices. They're all really far apart. So what I'm going to do is say that's about the same as just 3 times 225. And then I'm just going to know that the actual answer will be a little bit bigger than what I'm about to get because I'm using 3 instead of 3.14. So I'm going to do 225 times 3 and get 675. If I look at my answer choices, the only thing even close to that is 706 and a half. So the area of that circle is 706 and 5/10 square inches. Okay, next one. So the model of the backboard of a basketball goal is composed of a rectangle and a semicircle. Use the ruler provided to measure the dimensions of the model to the nearest half inch. Which measurement is closest to the area of the model of the backboard in square inches? So again, I'm looking for area. I've got two shapes here. We've got a rectangle, and I've also got a semicircle or a half circle. And you had to use the either the ruler on your screen or the ruler on your paper copy of the formula chart. Whoops. And when you did that, you should have gotten this rectangle at 4.5 inches long and about 1.5 inches wide. And then if the rectangle is 4.5 inches long, that also means the diameter of the circle is 4.5 inches. So now let's look at the formula for the two shapes. So for a half circle, we'll still use pi r squared, the formula for the area of a circle. But whatever we get, we need to divide by 2 since we only have half of a circle. And then the formula for the area of a rectangle is base times height. So let's go ahead and plug that in. So for pi, we'll use 3.14. Now that r stands for radius. Well, that's halfway across the circle. We already know that the diameter of the circle is 4.5 inches. Well, half of 4.5 is 2 1/4, or 2 25/100. So the radius would be 2.25. So I'll plug that in for radius. That has to be squared, and then I have to divide by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2.25 times itself. Remember, squared means times itself, not times 2. Now I'm going to 0 over twice to get to that second 2. I'm multiplying by 2 again, so I'll just get the same digits that I got in the previous row. And I'll just count my decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just caught my own mistake. This should have been 2 times 2, so this should be a 4 right here. Yeah, 2 times 2 is 4, so this should have been a 4 right here, which means this would have been a 4 right here. Let's try that again. And now 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so when we square the radius, we get 4.9625. Since this did say closest, I'm going to call that 5. So that gives me 3.14 times 5. And then whatever I get, I need to divide that by 2. So let's go ahead and do 3.14 times 5. And 2 digits after the decimal. And then I need to divide that by 2 since I only have half of a circle. Okay, so the area of this half circle is about 7.85. Now the formula for the area of a rectangle is base times height. So for this rectangle, that'll be 4.5 times 1.5. So let's see what that gives us. 4.5 times 1.5. 1, 2, 1, 2. And we get 6.75. So the area of the rectangle is 6.75 square inches. So there's the semicircle, there's the rectangle. So to get the area of the whole thing, we'll just add those together. And at 14.6, so the only possible answer is H, 14.7. And remember, I rounded back here with this 5. So that could have caused me to be that 10th off. So that is number 2. And number 3, if one face of a cube has an area of 6 square inches, what is the surface area of the entire cube? So we're looking for surface area, and we're talking about a cube. So the unique thing about a cube is that all of its faces are squares, they're congruent squares. So you have 6 congruent squares. And it tells us that the area of one face is 6 square inches. Well, I have 6 faces. I have a top, a bottom, a front, a back, a left, and a right. And if each one of those is 6 square inches, that's 6 square inches 6 times. So 36 square inches for the total surface area. In other words, if you covered that cube, it would take 36 square inches. That's number 3. Number 4, the net of a square pyramid and its dimensions are shown in the diagram. What is the total surface area of the pyramid? Remember, surface area means that we're covering this figure, so I need the area of every single face. So I'll start with the easiest part. This was a square pyramid. So I need to find the area of that square. Well, a square is just a special kind of rectangle, so we'll use base times height. It says that this square has side lengths of 12. Well, if it's a square, if one side is 12, they're all 12. So this is a 12 by 12 square, and 12 times 12 is 144. Then I also have this triangle, which is going to be the same. Those 4 triangles will be congruent. They have a base length of 12 and a height of 8. It gives you this 10 right there, but I don't need that because the formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. And the height is 8, not 10. Okay, that 10, remember, is leaning. It's a slanted height. And height is always going to make a right angle with the base, not going to be slanted like that. So I don't need that 10. So half of 12 times 8. Half of 12 is 6. 6 times 8 is 48. And there are 4 of those. So I need to do 48 times 4 because there are 4 triangles that are exactly the same. So the triangles have a total area of 192 square feet, plus that base square that has an area of 144 square feet. So altogether, the figure has a surface area of 336 square feet, which is F, and that's number 4. Number 5, one of the largest buildings in the world that is in the shape of a pyramid is the Palace of Peace in Kazakhstan. A replica of the Palace of Peace has a square base, so that's important, this base is a square, that measures 4.5 inches on each side. The height of the replica is also 4.5 inches. What is the volume in cubic inches of the replica of the Palace of Peace? So we're being asked for volume of a pyramid, and that formula is 1/3 times the area of the base times the height. It had a square base, so the base would look like that, and it says it's 4.5 inches on each side. So remember, capital B means area of the base. Our base is a square. A square is just a special rectangle. So to get big B, I need the area of that square. So 4.5 times 4.5. I'm going to do it with decimals just because that's easier to multiply with than the mixed numbers. Okay, so the area of that square is 20.25. So I'll plug that in for big B. And I've got to multiply that then by the height of the pyramid, and it said that the pyramid also had a height of 4.5. So in other words, from the peak of that pyramid to the floor, to the base, is 4.5 inches. So I'll plug in 4.5 for height. So I'm going to go ahead and take 1/3 of 20.25. So 20.25 divided by 3. 3 goes into 26 times. 3 goes into 22 7 times. And 3 goes into 15 5 times. So 1/3 times the area of the base is 6.75 times the height of the pyramid, which was 4.5. Okay, so really at this point, I know I've got a little more than 6 times a little more than 4. Well, 6 times 4 is 24. So I know I'm talking about something that's a little bit bigger than 24. So it has to be this one. Has to be 30 3/8, because B would be too small, because just 6 times 4 is 24. So I know it's a little bit bigger than 24. 6 3/4 is too small. And there's no way that 6 point something times 4 point something gives me something as big as 91. So that can't be it either. So it has to be C. Number 6, a box in the shape of a triangular prism has a volume of 23.1 cubic feet. Okay, that's interesting. It's giving me the volume. The base of the box has a length of 3.5 feet and a width of 1.2 feet, as shown in the diagram below. What is Y? The height. So we're actually looking for this distance, the height, okay, which is just the distance between the two bases. And since this is a triangular prism, the bases are those triangles. I'm still going to use the volume formula for a prism. I'm just going to use it to solve for height instead of volume. So the formula for the volume of a prism is volume equals area of the base times the height. Well, this time I know the volume, so I'll plug in 23.1 for volume. Capital B means area of the base. Our base is a triangle. The formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So in this case, that's 1/2 of 3.5 times 1.2. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Get over here. 3.5 times 1.2. 1, 2, 1, 2. So half of 4.2, well, half of 4.2 would be 2.1, because half of 4 is 2 and half of 2 is 1. So So I can plug in 2.1 for big B, and then that times the height, which is what I'm looking for, should give me the volume. So if 23.1 equals 2.1 times h, then to get h, I need to divide by 2.1. So I've got 23.1 divided by 2.1. Well, I know that 23 divided by 2 now it's going to be a little more than 11, but just barely more than 11. So it's going to have to be G. Okay, number 7. The dimensions of a candy container in the shape of a triangular prism are shown below. What is the best estimate of the volume of the candy container? So it's asking us for volume. This is a triangular prism, which means these triangles are the bases. So again, I'm going to use my volume of a prism formula. So volume equals area of the base times the height. Capital B means area of the base. My bases are triangles. The formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. It says estimate. So I'm going to call 6.97, I'm going to call 5.15, and I'm going to call 9.910. So 1/2. The triangle has a base length of about 5 and a height of about 7. So half of 5 times 7, well, 5 times 7 is 35. And half of 35, if you do 35 divided by 2, you're going to get 17.5. So I'm going to plug that in for big B. That has to be multiplied times the height of the prism. This sometimes gets tricky because some people want to call this the height of the prism. That's the height of the triangular base. The prism height is the distance between the bases. So that's this distance right here. So the height is about 10. Well, 17.5 times 10, just move that decimal one to the right, is 175. So the volume of that container is 175 cubic centimeters. Okay, number 8. A rectangular pool is filled with 18.75 cubic meters of water. Ooh, filled with. And this says cubic meters. So that is the volume. If the pool is 5 meters long and 2.5 meters wide, what is the depth of the pool? Well, depth would be like height. So the pool looks like this. It says it's rectangular, so we're talking about a rectangular prism. And it says it's 5 meters long, 2.5 meters wide, and we're looking for the depth. So it gave us the volume, so I'm going to use the volume formula. So volume equals area of the base times the height. Well, we know the volume. It gave us that, 18.75. I can get the area of that base. That's just a rectangle. So if B means capital B means area of the base, and it's a rectangle, I'm going to do base times height. So 5 times 2.5. Is 12.5. So I'll plug that in for big B. And we're looking for height. So 12.5 times the height would give us 18.75. So I need to divide by 12.5. So 18.75 divided by 12.5. So move that decimal over, move that decimal over. 125 will go into 187 one time. And 125 will go into 625. Exactly 5 times. So H would be equal to 1.5 meters. So that pool is 1.5 meters deep. Okay, 9. Melissa is making a piece for a stained glass window that has the shape and measure shown below. Point C is the center of the partial circle that forms one corner of the stained glass piece. Which area is the closest to the area of the stained glass piece in square inches? So we're looking for area. This is a composite figure. We're putting a quarter circle, so a fourth of a circle, with a rectangle and a triangle. So I need to find the area of all of those shapes. I'm going to start with the one that I know will be the hardest, that quarter circle. Well, the formula for the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. I only have a fourth of the circle, so I'm going to divide by 4. So 3.14, the radius of that circle is 6. That has to be squared, and then we'll divide by 4. Remember, you have to take care of exponents first, so I have to do the 6 squared first, which is 36. So we'll do 3.14 times 36. And get about 113.04. That would be the area of the whole circle, but we need to divide that by 4 since we only have 1/4 of the circle. Oops. And so we get 28.26. That's the area of the half circle. Now let's look at the rectangle. That'll be a lot easier. The formula for the area of a rectangle is base times height. Now, you might think that you don't have the base of the rectangle. So you're looking for this length right here, or this one right here, the base. Well, that's halfway across the circle. Well, we do know that. That's 6 inches, no matter where it is. So the base of the rectangle, we could say, is 6. And the height of the rectangle is given to us, that's 10. So the rectangle has an area of 60 square inches. That leaves us with the triangle, and the formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So 1/2. The base of that triangle is 12. Now let's look at its height. Well, from here to here is 10. And from here to here would be 6 again. That's halfway across the circle again. So 10 and 6 is 16. So 1/2 of 12 times 16. Well, half of 12 is 6. And 16 times 6 is 96. So the area of the triangle is 96 square inches. And now we just need to add all of those together. So we have, I'm going to say just about 28 for the quarter circle, 60 for the rectangle, 96 for the triangle, and it's about 184, so it has to be C. Okay, number 10. Look at the box shown below, which best represents the volume of the box. Well, that's a rectangular prism. And the formula for the volume of a prism is area of the base times the height. So if this is a rectangular prism, I can call any of the rectangles the base. Let's just say that's the base. The formula for the area of a rectangle is base times height. And if I choose the one I outlined, if I choose that as my base, then it's got a base length of 7.7 and a height of 5.2. So 7.7 times 5.2. And we get 40.04. Just to make the calculation easier, since I noticed that my answer choices are all pretty far apart, I'm going to say the area of the base is about 40. And then times the height, well, that's the distance to the other base. So that's this distance right here. And that's 8. And 40 times 8, well, 4 times 8 is 32. So 40 times 8 is 320. And that is H. Okay, 11. The Wright's backyard pool is in the shape of a rectangular prism. The length of the pool is 24 feet, the width is 16 feet, and the depth throughout the pool is 5 feet. Mr. Wright is filling the pool with water. If it takes 1 hour to fill 240 cubic feet, how many hours will it take to completely fill the pool with water? So I know in an hour he can get 240 cubic feet of water in the pool. So I need to know the volume of the pool. Well, it says it's a rectangular prism. So the pool looks like this. And it says it has a length of 24 feet, a width of 16 feet, and a depth of 5 feet all the way throughout the pool. So the formula for the volume of a prism is the area of the base times the height. I can pick any of the rectangles for the base. Let's just say that's the base right there. Then if that's the base, and big B is the area of the base, that we will do base times height to get the area of a rectangle. So 24 times 16. And that's 384. So I'll plug that in for big B. And then times the height. Remember, the height is just the distance between the bases. So 384 times 5. Okay, so that pool has a volume of 1,920 cubic feet. They're filling it at a rate of 240 cubic feet per hour. So I need to take 1,920 and divide it by 240. Okay, it's going to play with 240 a little bit. I'm just going to start trying my answer choices. I'm going to try 7 first. Okay, let's try 8. And that worked out exactly right. So it would take 8 hours to fill that pool. Okay, last one. The measures of 2 angles in a triangle are shown in the diagram. So I see that this angle right here is 48 degrees. This angle right here is x degrees, so we don't know that angle. Which equation can be used to find the value of x? Well, these marks here mean that those 2 sides are the same. And if those 2 sides are the same, then those 2 angles are the same. Which means if this angle is x degrees, then this angle is x degrees. And I know that for all triangles, no matter what they look like, if I add up their angles, I get a total of 180 degrees. So I know that 48 degrees plus x plus the other x should equal 180. Well, x plus x, that's 2 x's. So 48 plus 2x equals 180. I don't even have to solve it because it just says choose the equation. So it has to be it right here. Because these are adding up to 360. And G has 2 48s and just 1x, so that can't be it. So the answer is F. Okay, hope you learned something going through those corrections. If you'll just make sure your name is on your correction sheet, turn that into your class turn-in drawer, and I will see you later. Have a great day.